feel like yesterday night I died.
Last night I smoked a cigarette.
I'm at a pretty weird point in my life. I feel like I don't have any identity anymore. And for the past few years, I didn't really have a strong identity in the first place. And that was partially because I felt like I didn't want to, because I felt like if you have an identity that makes you, like it generally makes you less flexible and prevents growth and makes you stick to things that you might not actually want. So for example, if I say I'm a musician, there's a lot of other things that are connected to these words and concepts, and then I will likely take on all these other things about this as well, all these other attributes that might not fit. Yeah, and also I felt like it just increased the ego, and like in a negative way. And also then like if somebody criticizes me, or if like this identity is being threatened, then it would prevent me from learning easily. Because if you don't have an identity, then if you want to change something about yourself, if somebody criticizes you, then it does not matter, because like it doesn't need to offend you or anything, because there's no you. If you want to be different, then you can just become different. So I think that is one reason, like actively choosing to keep my identity really low and have really few I am a things. Like you can say I do music, I do this, I'm good at this, but like keeping it low. And then the other reason I think is that I experience a greater variety of different types of things than I think I probably like 90 to 95% of the people. I've tried like so many different sports and done so many different forms of art and dabbled into so many different topics and like sciences and human experiences and like just all these things, and changed so much and changed my preferences, and partially on purpose. So it is really hard to answer this question of like, when you're introducing yourself, like what do you do, who are you? Because I feel like I'm all of these different things, so many different things. That in combination with keeping my identity low frequently made me forget parts of my identity or parts of my past, and be it's like, oh yeah, I actually do like entrepreneurial stuff, and actually, yeah, I started a company, and this is not part of my identity. And for most people it is. For most people it's like, I'm a founder, I'm this and that. And for me it's just like, oh yeah, right, I did this. The third reason is that I felt like it doesn't matter who I am, it just matters who I want to become, and that will automatically change as I go along this path. Like, I say, okay, I want to be this person, and then in the process of becoming this person, my preferences will change. And so that's another reason why I felt like I don't need to hold on to an identity. So that's like what happened so far. And I feel like yesterday night I died. I became aware that the last time I really, really deeply thought about these things, I guess like the last and the first time I thought about these things really deeply, was when I was like 14, teenager. And there I thought about all these things like meaning and identity, and I did so much trying to figure out what I like and who I am, or who I want to become. And I've found pretty good answers, I think. But for the past few years, I just moved further and further away from myself. And the things that were big parts of my identity, they've just become a memory, and I've become unsure whether I still am that, because I feel like people change so much, and I can feel my brain changing. I do think I can come back to these things if I want to, even though it feels a bit scary and a bit difficult because there's so many outside influences. But I do think it's theoretically possible. The only thing that is a bit scary is your preference is changing. If you're one person at one point in time, and then several years later you are a different person, and you are not a person that your younger person would have wanted to be, but now you don't want these things anymore. that's kind of weird. And I do feel like I place my younger self's preferences over my older selves in a lot of ways. The sun is about to go down. I realized I have some deep things that influence all my other actions that are kind of not how I want them to be, that are misaligned with myself. I tried so hard to achieve some goals all these past years, and I feel like I didn't get anywhere where I want to be. And I feel like my identity has been shattered in its core. And last night I realized that all these things that I came up with when I was younger, that I haven't questioned them deeply ever since, only like superficially based on some assumptions that stayed the same. And like I realized that the identity that I built up for myself, like I am this person, these are the things that I'm doing with my life, this is what's important to me, this is what it means to have a good life, they don't have to be that way. And it's kind of weird, this feeling that like at one point you just decide you're this person and this is what you're doing in your life, and then you just do that and you don't question it anymore. And maybe it's a waste of time questioning these things. Maybe I will just come to the same conclusions that I came to back then, and I think there will be a significant overlap. Since I realized this yesterday, since I realized like, oh, I think I am these things. This is what I'm made of, and therefore this is what I like need to do in my life, and this is who I am. Like this is not set in stone. And what am I really? And I don't yet know how to answer that, whether it's like a pointless question to ask. And I guess like when I say like what am I really, I mean like what do I want? I mean what is important to me, I mean what I actually love. And I don't know yet where I will arrive with this, but I just feel so stuck in everything. I just feel like I really need to break out in some way. It feels like I'm suffocating. I'm in this suit that is like way too tight, and nothing really feels right. I feel like I completely lost my identity, and it's a really weird feeling, and it's a scary feeling, like not knowing anything anymore and starting from zero. And one scary thing about that is that I feel like I'm not sure if I still have the ability to figure these things out. Because back then I used to be like really good at thinking about these things, and I used to really like that. And now when I sit down and try to think about things, oftentimes like I feel like my brain is not able to do that so well. And I'm scared that I will not be able to think about it as well, and that my like brain capacity has gone down so much since it wasn't trained as much anymore since school. The other thing is that I haven't felt like my own person for so long, and it's really hard to describe that feeling, because how could you not be you? All this time I have been extremely proactive about chasing goals and creating my environment, but at the same time there has been a continuous feeling of putting the control outside of myself. It's so weird. I'm so deeply dissatisfied with where I'm at and who I am. And I know I've come a long way already, and I'm proud of that. Like a long fucking way. It's really scary to pause, for me, to pause at this age, because I'm scared of wasting my life, doing too much thinking and not enough doing. But I feel like I don't have a choice, because all my doing has been bad. So it doesn't make sense to keep running if I'm running into the wrong direction. And I need to realize that life is now, like this right now, is living. And it's a weird mind shift, because I was so used to living in the future. I was so used to like, oh, it's fine if I don't love my life right now, because I'm working towards it. So I'm gonna do this really scary thing of taking the time to rebuild myself. And it's fucking hard with with all these distractions. Like honestly, I'm not sure if I could have done it back then. If my relationship to the internet and distractions had been the same as it is now. Like back then I had restricted internet access and had school where I couldn't use my phone for longer times. And I feel like this is like one necessary component for this, because one of the big reasons I have like not been that aware of the misalignment for so many years has been I wasn't alive. I did not give myself any space to think. I just distracted myself constantly. I did not leave any room for thoughts right before sleep. I did not leave any room for feeling all these uncomfortable feelings. But if I wouldn't have been that uncomfortable back then, I would have never changed so much. And it is super overwhelming, and I don't know where to start. I know I need to start with getting help with this. And I know that I need to ask myself a lot of chains of why questions and examine all the things. And in a way it's beautiful because I do want to share this process. I feel like this is something that I do want to do. Just need to figure out a good way to do it, but no better way to do it than just doing it. For the longest time I've just done these things on my own, but I do want to share it. I do want to put what I love out into the world. Maybe I will actually go into a cabin just all by myself for a month where I can just rethink everything, create the conditions for my brain. I'll keep you updated.
Anywhere